Primavera Avocados is back for the spring and summer season. Grown on a family ranch in Southern California since 1979, these avocados are hand-picked and delivered to your door in perfect condition. You can order a box or sign up for a subscription to save money. Each box includes 4 pounds or 8 to 10 avocados delivered to your door. Order at primaveraavocados.com, Primavera avocados.com. Use promo code TASTE at checkout to get 10% off your order. These avocados are only in season through July, so order now. Named one of the Wall Street Journal's 10 best places to go in 2025, Traverse City is northern Michigan magic. Think sparkling blue waters, golden dunes, and of course, incredible food. This summer marks the debut of the Traverse City Food and Wine Festival, running August 20th through 24th. The event highlights both national and local chefs including Tyler Florence, Ji-Hae Kim, Mei Lin, and Kate Williams, and features ticketed dinners, a grand tasting tent, and wine tasting. Visit traversityfoodandwine.com for details.
Every culture can make some sort of chicken, whether it's a roast chicken or whatever, but it's what you put on it that makes it so yours. And I think that element of the dish is the cultural element. So just by learning about a condiment on a plate, you end up learning about the culture that plate comes from.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rothbard. Claire Dinhut is known as Condiment Claire online, but as we find out in this entertaining conversation, Claire's knowledge about food spans well beyond spotting the perfect sandwich mustard, though she certainly has thoughts. She is the author of the terrific book, The Condiment Book, which is sneaky in its brilliant discussions on food science, terroir, history, and flavor pairing. The book is really great, and it was fun to talk with Claire about her life in and out of the kitchen. Also on the show, I catch up with Anna Hezel. She wrote a terrific piece about this tinned fish era we live in. I hope you enjoy this episode. Claire Dinhut, welcome to This Is Taste. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. I really, really love your book. I think it's so, I'll say some things. It has editorial rigor. It has a really fun visual design, and I learned a lot.
That makes me so happy. I think it's basically my brain on a page. So it's a little bit of history. There's some maps. There's some doodles. It's kind of just how I see flavor and condiments in my mind.
Definitely. So. You really executed. Before we get to the book, you're in New York. Where do you like to go out when you're in New York? Where have you been? You spent some time here.
Yeah, so I lived in New York right after college. Yeah. So I have a few spots that I try to go back to when I'm here. So I'm not trying the new spots, even though I would love to get into Haas Snack Bar because I love that team. Yeah. But I love Kiki's. Yeah. I love Churvo's. I was like a Lower East Side Chinatown girl. That's exactly where I lived.
Times Square, baby.
That was like my nook.
Yeah.
There's a great sandwich spot called Patacon Pisau in the neighborhood that does... just delicious, like the shredded beef and the cotija, all of that.
For sure.
And my mom was actually raised in New York, and she's Greek American, so I love going out to Astoria too and just having all the good Greek food.
No way.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you have a real connection family-wise to New York, but you live in London now.
I do live in London.
And you've been there for like 6-7 years.
Yeah, I moved when Brexit was announced.
Okay.
Because I have a French passport, and I'd always wanted to live in London. And I was like, you know what? At this point, I know my career isn't going to be traditional. Yeah. I probably won't get a visa from some company. Yeah. So let me move with my French passport, October 2020, and now I've been there since.
You're here. And so what do you... I love London. I mean, the restaurant scene is crazy.
Thank you.
What can we learn about from as Americans from your point of view? Because you have a really good because you lived in LA and you know American culture. What can you tell us about London restaurant scene?
What I love about London is the fact that if you go out to dinner with 10 friends, everyone will have a different passport. And I think that's the beauty of London. There's so many cultures in one place. And whether it's high-end, low-end restaurants, they're all delicious, and they're all, very, you can find some restaurants that are traditional to native cuisine, and then also certain restaurants that are mishmashes and more modern. Yeah. So I think the food scene is just constantly changing too, which you can find any country's cuisine in London.
Where are you going in London?
Ooh, there's this Malaysian spot I love called Sudu, which is like very hole in the wall. You can always get a reservation, which is, now that I come to New York, I realize you cannot get one restaurant reservation here, which is...
I was just on Resy like 5 minutes ago, and I go to Resy, that's my one, and It's challenging at times.
I mean, it's wild. I did an event with L'Appartement 4F last night, and they were like, Claire, like the Resi notifies are nuts. And I was like, what do you mean? And we had a 6:30 and 8:30 seating.
Yeah.
And there were like 170 for the first seating on Notify, 150 on the second one. I was like,
I love
this is such like an American cultural thing to me to have the Resi Notify on as opposed to walking in somewhere.
Walking in. So you got the Malaysian spot. What else do you have in London?
I love, honestly, there's a restaurant called Gold that I think is phenomenal. I'm usually not like a modern European girl when it comes to restaurants. I like, there's really good Ethiopian food in London. Obviously, the Indian food is phenomenal. But this restaurant just nails it. They do a lot of like wood-fired elements, and there are a bunch of great veggie dishes. And I'm not vegetarian by any means, but there's this one char-grilled cabbage dish that I think is definitely in my top 5 dishes in the world, probably top 3 as well. And it's just like char-grilled cabbage, and it's soaked in banya cauda. And I'm someone who loves anchovies, so it's just... That dish really does it for me.
I was wondering what the condiment was. And banya cauda is a great condiment, really adjacent condiment. Yeah.
Completely. It's like you sop it all up.
Dude, have you been to Rambutan, Borough Market?
I have
near
been.
Borough Market.
It's really nice. It's again, my heart belongs to Sudu when it comes to Malaysian. So I always feel guilty if I'm cheating on it.
Yeah.
But I just love a good roti. Like when you can pull it apart and see through it almost.
It's a great call on the
really
roti.
Special.
Let's go back to LA growing up. Unique background, right? You've got a Greek-American mother, a French father, but you're living in LA. You're living the LA life. What's your LA childhood like food-wise? Like, where are you going? What neighborhood were you like mostly hanging out in?
Honestly, I think just because of the LA lifestyle, it was so normal, to wake up on a Saturday morning, go on a hike, go to a farmer's market. Yeah. So when I think LA, I think a lot of farmer's market stands, fresh citrus. There was this one woman who'd sold tamales at the Palisades Farmer's Market, which was like that taste to me reminds me of, weekends at home. I think getting huevos rancheros at any brunch restaurant, that was my go-to. Otherwise, I'm very LA cliche in the sense that I love a good salad. And La Scala chopped salad, it's just, you can't go wrong with it.
Were you cooking at home a lot, too, with your family?
Definitely. It's just me and my parents. So, mom Greek-American, dad French. Big food countries.
Sure.
And my mom is an amazing cook. It's not her job, but she truly could open a restaurant if she wanted to. And so she always made me, breakfast. My lunchbox was like a 3-course meal. When it was winter, she'd roast chestnuts and that would be in my lunchbox. And everyone was like, what?
Yeah.
And I'd come home every night to a lovely home-cooked dinner. So
that's amazing that you grew up that way.
Yeah, I'm really lucky.
So let's talk about just how Condiment Claire came to be born. Because you started it as Claire from Where.
I did.
Which is great. You obviously know your name, you know your way around a punny name.
I try.
It's great. And I mean, you decided you wanted to pivot to condiments after you found that the condiment content was poppin'. Tell me about that, like evolution, because you have a lot of interest. You're not just like into condiments, but you clearly understood that condiments was something that would draw people in, and it had this real opportunity to educate people.
Yeah, so I'd moved to London during the pandemic, and I had always wanted to get into food and travel TV. Whether that was on screen, behind the screen, it's just something I was always interested in. And I started, I was having conversations. I was working for production companies, and basically, I had gotten on this call where they told me, if you want to do this, you need to have a following or you need to be a chef. And I've always known I'm not a chef. I just really like flavor and I like learning about other places through flavor. So I was like, I guess I'll start on TikTok because that's where people get a following nowadays. And I started on TikTok, username Claire from Where. I was talking about cultural differences, being American, moving to the UK, trying all of these new things. But again, it was lockdown. So I was buying stuff at the grocery store, making some stuff at home. And when lockdown lifted, I came to New York. And I was actually standing outside of Siddell's waiting for my friends. And 2 people ran up to me being like, you're the condiment girl. You're Condiment Claire. And I was like, the condiment girl? Like Condiment Claire? I was like, am I the condiment girl?
You mean this is as posting from Claire from Where?
Yeah, just like that. And then I went back to London that weekend. And 2 more people recognized me because lockdown, again, had finally lifted. Yeah. You're the condiment girl. I love your butter videos. I love your mustard videos. And I was like, am I the condiment girl? And I was like, at this point, my life is a gag. Everyone's delirious from lockdown. I was like, I'm going to change my username to Condiment Claire because it's too funny not to. I was like, I can always change it back. Like at this point, I didn't have that big of a following. So whatever. It was kind of just for fun. Changed my username to Condiment Claire. That next week, 3 literary agents reached out to me. Pam from Macmillan reached out to me. And it was the first time that in my career, something was kind of handed to me on a silver platter. It was like, do you want to write a book? And I studied history and literature in college. I'd written a thesis. I love writing whatever comes to mind.
Yeah.
My notes app is full of random historical fun facts.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I will write a book, but it needs to be more of a book rather than a cookbook. I really wanted to have that like nerdy historical element because that's what I'm interested in. And they were like, yeah, great, go for it. And that's how Condiment Claire came about and how the book came about literally within the 2 weeks after changing my username.
It's a good story, Claire. And honestly, a lot of like social books happen because of platform and because of there's like a market for it.
Yeah.
But it's a really editorially rigorous book, as I said before.
You.
It's what just interests you in diving into the condiment?
Yeah. You know, I think the fact of the matter is every culture can make some sort of chicken, you know, whether it's a roast chicken or whatever, but it's what you put on it that makes it so yours. And I think that element of the dish is the cultural element. So just by learning about a condiment on a plate, you end up learning about the culture that plate comes from. So, you know, it's not really about condiments whatsoever. It's more so about flavor, about different civilizations, you know, through time and figuring out the history of that condiment actually tells you, you know, what that population has gone through time. You know, was the condiment born out of necessity or was it just something that's really delicious?
I love that you are not one of those authors when asked, what is your favorite condiment, which I'm not asking you because that's the worst question. But you're like, it's like picking my favorite child. You literally write in the book, your favorite condiment, hands down, is mustard.
Yeah, 100%.
Fuck yeah, I'm pro mustard.
100%.
Why?
You know, again, the condiment is the cultural element, and I think there's taste and there's flavor. And taste is salty, sweet, bitter, acid, and umami. Yeah. But flavors, you know, color, texture, smell, but more importantly, nostalgia and memory. And it's that the flavor element is the condiment. And again, I grew up in a French household, so there was always Dijon mustard on the table. It's something I'm very used to. And to me, that's the nostalgic element. So it's a flavor that I really, really miss. If I'm eating something and it needs Dijon, if it's not there, I can't focus on eating it because I just really miss it. And I'm so lucky that I get to travel so much, you know, for work or for pleasure.
Yeah.
And in those moments where I've been gone from home for a while or I'm just feeling a little, like if I have mustard, genuinely, having Dijon mustard makes me feel really comfortable and like I'm at home. So it's more so, you know, it is the flavor, it is that punch, it is that acidity, it's that slight spice, but it's also that feeling of coziness and feeling really settled.
Yeah, we did this great full episode about Dijon with my mustard.
Yeah.
And I asked a couple of the folks on that, and I'm going to ask you this, define the flavor. I just think this is, what is Dijon to you?
You know, I think when you think of a really good salad dressing that has enough zing, that has enough punch, that solidified and condensed into like more of a paste.
Yeah.
So something that's really vinegary, that has that like salty element too. So it's salty, it's acid, it's slightly bitter. And I really love that. And the fact that it's a paste and you can combine it with things, it works in anything. Like I combine it with pretty much any condiment. I think it's really good in jams. And it just brings a slight heat, like not that spice.
Yeah.
It's just a tang and a heat. And I just...
So you put Dijon in like a fruit jam.
Yeah.
Into it. No, into it. I know that's a really, I mean, because that's bringing in those interesting glutamates and kind of that like... that dimension that is beyond sweetness.
Yeah, I did a brunch with my friends actually right before leaving on my U.S. book tour. They were so sweet. They threw me a condiment book brunch, and we all brought dishes from the U.S. version of the book because there's a quiche recipe inside. There's a tarte tatin, all of that.
Yeah.
And someone had made this berry jam. It was like a red berry jam. And there was obviously Dijon on the table because I could not eat a meal without it. And we all ended up combining this berry jam with the Dijon and having a bite of that with the quiche or with the onion tarte tatin was so delicious. And I always say, if you have a bunch of jams at home, invite friends over, make a big roast chicken because jam and roast chicken works well together.
So you're saying roasted chicken and then offer a variety of jams to pair with it and Dijon.
Always Dijon on the table. So you'll always end up having, you know, Dijon on your plate. Or if you're me, you will always have Dijon on your plate. And you know what? If the jam slips into the Dijon,
I'm so into that. So
put it in the chicken.
Yeah. I like that. Roast chicken and jam and Dijon is... It's like we need permission to do that as Americans. Americans are so rigid with serving a roast chicken, like just with the chicken, possibly as you, but typically just the chicken. But you're like gussy it up.
Yeah, you know, and I think the thing is if you're making the jams at home too, it's a little more tempting to put them with the chicken because I like to have bigger chunks of fruit in my jam.
Definitely.
So, you know, you have the roast veggies, but then you also have either like full strawberries on the side or... Obviously, I think a chutney is delicious with a roast chicken. Like I would do a chutney over a jam for chicken unless you have that jam element and you combine it with the Dijon. And so you get that slight like salty acidity.
Take me through the difference, actually, between jam, jelly, and chutney, because I think I confuse them all sometimes. And in the book, you write very well about the differences, the strengths for each of them.
So jam is fruit and sugar.
Yeah.
So you'll have pieces of fruit inside. Jelly is the fruit juice and sugar. So it's completely silky, smooth, jiggly.
Right.
Think of it as like Jell-O texture almost.
Yeah.
But you make it using fruit juice. And then chutney, think of a jam. So it's like the chunky fruits, but you add vinegar to it. So it does have some sugar to it, but it's like a chunky, vinegary spread that's also slightly sweet.
Interesting. Really well said. I mean, I think we think about jelly, I guess, from like the, at the diner table, they give you little packets.
Yeah. I love a grape jelly, I have to say.
Grape is good.
I love a grape jelly.
Yeah.
Like a good classic American grape jelly is...
What do you pair it with?
PB&J.
Yeah.
PB&J, but I think, obviously if you put it bagel and cream cheese, delicious. Put it on yogurt, just a classic. I think when it comes to that nostalgic flavor to me, I want to have it with something nostalgic.
Yeah.
So...
Well, let's go to the PB&J, because in the back of the book, you have this really smart grown-up PB&J methodology, I'll call it. So you have like you kind of break it down into layers. You have a butter layer, a jam jelly layer, a spice layer, a crunch layer, and then you add fruit to it. Claire, very cool. Very cool to think about PB&J. Take us through what inspired you to make this big cool chart.
Well, again, as I was saying, like my mom always made me like 3-course lunches, and it just was always... Oh, I always had whole foods on the table. And when I was 13, I actually went to her and I was like, Mom, like, am I allowed to have a PB&J? Because I always like saw it on TV, or my friends at school would have like a PB&J in a Ziploc bag, and that would be their lunch. And she was like, what do you mean are you allowed to have a PB&J? Like, of course. Like, do you want me to make you one right now? And I was like, yes. And so to me, it's a very American sandwich that I didn't necessarily grow up with. And I think when a lot of people think about it, they think of, an American school lunch, maybe like just nothing that glamorous or nothing that tasty. When in reality, it's such a beautiful thing to put these two things together and get those flavors. And so I kind of wanted to make it enjoyable for everyone. If someone doesn't like the classic PB&J, you can get that same enjoyment by adding different butters, whether it's almond butter, pistachio butter, and then you can add your own jams. And I think to level it up a notch, you add a crunch, you add a little salty element. And you can always change the bread, but I think a classic white bread is
white
kind
bread
of
is
the
the best, but you don't want to be like having a baguette with
PB&J.
No,
I don't think so.
Great.
I agree. Yeah.
But let's talk about the crunch element.
Yeah.
Because that's a cool thought, because you think about crunchy peanut butter, but sometimes not great. But how are you adding other crunchy elements?
Ooh, like cacao nibs, delicious. So if you do like pistachio butter, for example, with like dark cherry jam, maybe some cacao nibs, yum. If you do almond butter, maybe apricot jam with that, add some like toasted coconut flakes, a little salt, a little cinnamon, delicious. And I'm always going to be a fan of like the grape jelly, crunchy peanut butter for the crunch, a little salt, a little cinnamon, white bread.
So we forget salt.
Always salt. I always need like a little salt, which is why salt is a condiment, because condiment comes from the Latin verb condire, which means to enhance the flavor of something. So it's something that's completely unnecessary. Again, PB&J, you don't need the salt.
Yeah.
But if you're adding it, then it becomes a condiment.
I like it. I think we think of condiments as like obviously the condiment section of the grocery store.
Yeah.
But it's beyond that, as you've proven. Was that hard to wrap your head around, that a lot of things can be condiments that aren't like pickles?
No. I love proving a point. It's the stubborn French nature.
You love proving a point.
I love proving a point.
Nice.
So if someone tries to argue with me about, is salt a condiment? Is butter a condiment? I love talking about flavor and dishes and food. And so to me, if you want to argue with me about is butter a condiment, I will fight you until you do realize that I'm right.
Oh my God. And have you actually fought people?
100%. That's the number one question I get is butter, is butter a condiment? And I'll always say like, yeah, there's butter and there's butter. So there's ingredient butter that you bake with, that you melt down, that you use in cookies. And then there's butter that you cherish, that's put on a pedestal in your fridge. That's like that beautiful salty French butter where you see the flaky salt or, whatever butter you like.
And you think of the radishes, you think about the baguettes.
Exactly. You're not using just any random unsalted butter for that.
Do you have a butter? I know France is like truly the epicenter of good butter in the world.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite butter brand?
Yeah, there's a French brand that's just like the random cheap grocery store brand in France called Grand Fromage. Mm-hmm. It's one of like the checkered packages. Yeah. I really like that one. That's kind of like my family's favorite. Yeah. But when you're there, it's the aisles and aisles of butter are all kind of extremely similar. It's just about where you get your
They're
salt.
vast. And same with yogurt.
Yeah.
The yogurt
We do
aisle.
love our dairy.
Yeah,
love our dairy.
it's a real art form in France.
Totally.
Okay, so this show, we're extremely pro-ranch.
Yeah.
Dressing ranch as a condiment.
Yeah.
Now, you share a fondness clearly because you write about it so beautifully.
Thank you.
But I would think with your background that maybe ranch wouldn't be your thing because I don't think ranch is playing in France. I'm just going to take a hunch.
No, definitely not. Again, there's that nostalgia element. And I had never really had ranch until college.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm a pizza and ranch fan. I do like that duo.
You're here for life.
Okay, good.
Open invite. Yeah.
Gluing myself to this chair.
Yeah,
we
you're
can just chat
co-host
forever.
now. Liza, you and I, we're joining. Because that is
Great.
exactly right.
Yeah. So I think, a good 4 a.m. pizza with ranch is necessary. If you don't have the ranch with that pizza, it's not going to hit as hard. It's not going to just taste as delicious.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan. And yes, there is a recipe for ranch in my book, but I think it's the sort of thing where there's a time and a place for homemade ranch, and there's a time and a place for Hidden Valley Ranch. Wow. And 4 a.m. might be that Hidden Valley Ranch time.
Hidden Valley, man. Polarizing topic. I mean, Hidden Valley works. There's some other brands too that I like.
Yeah, I honestly am just not privy to all of those other brands when I'm in the UK. So I never have ranch when I'm there. So that's why I've kind of found a way to develop that recipe to make it at home.
Now, you write with certainty about the history of ranch.
Yeah.
So take us a little bit through your research and findings about where ranch dressing came from.
It's such a fun story. And I think that's why I had so much fun writing the book is there's so many condiments that you don't expect their history to be that interesting. But basically, there was this guy, Steve Henson, who in the 50s was a plumber in Alaska. And he and his wife would have friends over. They'd make this herby dressing sometimes. Long story short, they end up moving to California and buying a ranch. And this ranch was called Hidden Valley Ranch. Yeah. And he continues making this dressing that people love. And it's a buttermilk dressing with, again, all of these herbs. It is ranch. Shocker. And then they open up this little restaurant and people start eating this ranch. And they start packaging it, then selling it to customers because everyone was missing that flavor when they would leave the restaurant. And then that became, Hidden Valley Ranch.
Yeah, then it became a CPG product and was everywhere in America.
Yes. I think it was bought by Clorox in the 70s or the 90s.
Yeah,
One of those two. Yeah. Wild.
It's a wild topic, and I love that you give it its respect. Let's talk about the condiments of Asia. I think that is, South Asia, East Asia, Southeast Asia. We'll just say all. It's a place where, there's a lot of unique flavor profiles that really just absolutely excel in bringing more flavor to vegetables and starches and proteins.
Yeah.
Broad question. This is a tough one. I mean, do you have any favorites from Asia?
Oh, definitely. I love Japanese food. I love Japanese cuisine. I could eat Japanese food for the rest of my life. Everyone always says they expect me to say French food, but to me, Japanese is top to top. Yeah. I love ponzu because I love that brightness, that citrusiness. I love soy sauce. I put soy sauce on pretty much everything, or like Dijon. I think if you add a little bit of soy sauce to any dish, vanilla ice cream and soy sauce, delicious. Maple syrup, add a little soy sauce, delicious.
Yes, of course.
Ponzu and watermelon, great combo.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the yuzu ponzus a lot.
Love the yuzu
Those
ponzus.
are dope. I like with citrus ponzus. Yeah.
So I couldn't find any yuzu ponzu in London. They'll have lemon ponzu or orange ponzu.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much always sold out. And so I have a recipe for ponzu in this book, which again was so fun to learn how to make because I didn't think I could. And if you add, lemon, a little lime, a little clementine juice, you end up getting as close of the yuzu flavor as you can if you're not able to find that yuzu ponzu. So,
do you know about Yuzuko?
Yeah.
Have you heard that brand?
Yeah,
I'm sure they've hit you up.
So I work with Yuzuko sometimes.
Nice.
I got them for the condiment book box that we sent out when the book came out. I had some of my favorite condiments in a box that we shipped to some people. And one of the condiments was the new Yuzu Kosho.
Oh, yeah.
It's phenomenal. And I did a dinner with the Infatuation too. And we were like, can we please have more of that so we can gift that because it's just so yum.
I love their Yuzu Kosho. I mean, I like some of this products from Japan too, but that's a great brand.
Yeah,
but
brand.
Are they going to, so you're in, I mean, I've connected with them a little bit, but are they going to do a ponzu?
I don't know.
They should.
Trust me, I would love that. I would love that.
Because I think you're so right. Ponzu is a really, really, I think underrated ingredient component for cooking.
Yeah, and I think, I think in this country you can definitely find it in grocery stores. I think in London you're finally starting to. So in France, good luck finding yuzu ponzu. It's not, unless you're in Paris, you can't really find it.
We think of it as like a dipping sauce here only sometimes. I think you don't think of it as a cooking component, right?
Yeah. I love using it in salad dressings. I think it's really good.
Let's talk about American hot sauce.
Yes.
Because I think that's a great, there's a great history here, of course. We have like these historical brands like Red Hot and Crystal and Tabasco.
Yeah.
Do you have a take on American hot sauce versus Mexican hot sauce and some favorite American brands?
Because I grew up in LA, I do love Mexican food. So like there's a lot of Japanese influence too. So that's why I love Japanese and Mexican food.
It's a great place to grow up when you write about food.
Amazing. Feels very comfy to me. So I do love Mexican hot sauces. In terms of American hot sauces, have you heard of Zab's?
Of course.
I love Zab's. It's the LA in me.
Yeah, Miles is coming on the show soon. I've gone through 2 jars. It's like one of those jars that when you open your fridge door, it like rattles because it's empty.
Yes.
That's my Zab's.
Yes. Well, tell them I say hi.
Yeah.
Love those guys.
Yeah.
Are you an original or a St. Augustine style?
I like the original personally, but I've been hip to both. The original is the blue one, right?
That's the St. Augustine.
Oh shit!
You like the St. Augustine.
Then let's rewind. Yes, I do like the St. Augustine.
It's just slightly sweeter, I find.
Sure is.
And there was a reason. I was like, why do I like this one? I love both, but I was like, why do I always gravitate towards the blue one? I was like, it's so weird. And I finally checked the ingredients like years later. Has mustard powder in it.
Oh, mustard powder is cool. That's what that is. I think it just like we have a tendency to love sweet here in America. That's American. I mean, your palate's international, but for a hot sauce to be sweet but also balanced with acidity and actually have real heat but not too much is hard to do.
Yeah, and I think just also highlighting the daddle pepper is so interesting.
Yeah, right?
Again, it's very like, this is an American hot sauce. And I think that's brilliant.
I love that brand. They're doing that Taco Bell collab.
Are they?
Yeah, that was announced in some press release, and I know we'll talk, Miles and I will chat about it.
Oh my God, that's so fun.
Yeah, they're doing a Zabs. Like, I'm sure it's not like obviously in every Taco Bell, but smart.
That's really smart because I started using their hot sauce like before the pandemic because I think it was an LA based company.
I think
and so it was at like Alfred Coffee and it was like Alfred has Zabs and I was like, oh my God, that's the only place you can find Zabs. And I ended up sitting down with those guys years after when it was still just very LA based. So I love that now it's, I can see it in grocery stores even here, and the fact that they're doing a Taco Bell collaboration is wild.
It's so good
definitely
for those guys.
Be emailing them congratulations right after this.
I just I bought it at Erewhon actually when I first bought it. What's your relationship with Erewhon?
I love Erewhon.
Hell yeah.
You know what? I grew up with an uncle who was vegan before it was cool to be vegan. So he would always go to the Erewhon and I would go with him. That's like his splurge. It's just always, eating good food there.
It is a splurge for sure.
But it's interesting because there are certain things there that are regular price.
Definitely.
And so it's just about, this is so embarrassing to say. Like, I scroll through the app when I'm in London. Why am I a member of Erewhon when I come to LA once a year? Like, it does not make sense. It is not financially smart, but it brings me so much pleasure.
Yeah.
And so to be able to compare the prices and see what actually makes sense at Erewhon, like some of the sushi items really make sense.
Yeah.
And then I also, I love an Erewhon smoothie.
They're great.
I'm a mint chip Energizer girl.
Ooh.
Have been since high school. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
And if you're paying $18 for a smoothie, people judge.
Yeah.
If you're paying $18, $20, $25 for a cocktail in New York, no one's judging you. It's just kind of commonplace.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what? If I'm going to buy a beverage, if it's good for me, you can't judge it. Whereas like a cocktail, no one's going to blink an eye. So I just think that comparison is really interesting.
Smart. I think you're right. I think we definitely will spend anything for certain products like alcohol and then judge like a $7 coffee.
Yeah.
Have you had your coffee awakening era yet?
I never really drank coffee.
Okay.
I started drinking coffee in college. I really like a good roasted Italian coffee, right? Like I just like it smooth. I don't like any of like the cool new places like nitro cold. Like that's not my thing. But I always drank matcha when I was in LA because again, Japanese influence. In the past year, I've like really converted to matcha only because that's what I crave in the morning.
Yeah, sure.
But I was just in Australia in February and everyone always says, Australian coffee's so good. I was like, yeah. Like I'm like so picky. I like a like really smooth, creamy Italian roast. The coffee in Australia is so good.
Yeah, dairy's
great. It is so good. Yeah. Any cafe you walk into will be some of the best coffee you've ever had. Yeah. So I was very caffeinated that trip because they also have delicious matcha. So I was just going like bouncing from place
So your
to place.
matcha mostly, I love that story about Australia. Now, I think you're going to have a coffee. I just can, like maybe not now.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to judge. I think I didn't see coffee until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
And like you write about food so well and you think about, coffee is going to enter your life.
I mean, I love coffee. I love anything coffee flavored. It's just at the minute, I'm definitely more of a matcha girl, but I appreciate a really, really good coffee.
Your journey will be incredible.
I can't wait.
Sorry, I'm being vague, but I feel like if you like understand all the food science and condiments, just thinking about coffee from like a roasting level and different producers and varietals and terroir and extraction points and setups at home.
I can't wait.
I'm trying to put a little hard
I can't wait for my awakening.
Yeah. So you fenced at Harvard and you were in like an Olympic program. Do you still fence?
No, I don't. I never really talk about this, but my junior summer, I got really sick just out of nowhere. Had a stomach bacteria that caused me to go to the hospital. Yeah. I was only allowed to eat ice chips for a month. Bunch of tests done, took antibiotics. It gave me another thing. So I basically had lost a ton of weight in the span of 2-3 months. So I went back to school, kept fencing, just kept trying to keep it up. And it's just obviously my level of fencing just crashed because I had no strength. Yeah. And so I ended up stopping because to me I loved the sport, but I'm also a very competitive person. Yeah. So I'd always dreamt about, making it to the Olympics. I was going to World Cups. And the second I just started getting beat by people I would easily beat before, it kind of was just so devastating that I was like, you know what?
That's
I'm
hard.
writing a thesis. I'm going to put everything into that. I'm going to spend my last semester actually, going out in college, seeing my friends, doing that. And I'm so grateful to fencing. And I think about it genuinely every day because I think it's a sport that's so fascinating. It's physical chess. You always have to figure out what's next. And I love watching it. A lot of my friends, are still fencing, going to the Olympics. And I loved my team. So the team and I still keep in touch.
Okay.
But yeah, the second I stopped because I think it's too painful to ever do it for fun when you were at that level.
That must have been really hard, Claire.
Yeah, it sucked. It was definitely not fun. But
yeah. But you probably gained a lot from being able to take that break from that senior year and also work on your thesis, which would lead to potentially this book.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now and having that real interest in food and travel had I focused all of my time and energy on fencing. So I'm really grateful that, I experienced all of that. I think it definitely shaped who I am today, whether that's being an athlete or being a fencer specifically. But I'm really grateful also that that time came to a close at that moment. And then I could focus more on career afterwards. That was a career in something that I really love, which hilarious to say my job is now condiments, but here we are.
Let's close and talk about that because you've got this wide world in front of you and condiments is wide, but also it's a small single topic. Yeah. Where do you want to take your career in food? Yeah,
I think a lot of people do think of it as it's so niche. It's condiments only.
Do not say that.
No, but it's true. It is. I mean, condiments are niche. They're just a really random, part of your plate. But it's more so about flavor. And so if you think about the world of flavor and you think about all the different flavors around the world, why certain flavors came to be, why we gravitate towards some and not towards others, is it your childhood? Is it, a good memory? I think you just realize that it's not a niche whatsoever. It's kind of just touching upon the little surface stuff almost and just having to dig deep, which I think is fascinating. So I never thought I would write a book. I'm really grateful that I was put in this position. Will I write a second book? If it's a nice, nerdy, historical book like this one, yeah, probably. And we'll see. And then otherwise, I always wanted to be in the food and travel TV world. So I think now that, the pandemic is officially over and you can travel again and you do have that ability to learn about different places, I think it'd be really fun to go into that now that these book tours are over.
I read that you wrote the folks at ZPZ 0.0.
Yes.
I used to work there for a couple years. Yeah, I love those guys. And I know that team that's Bourdain's production company, but they did a lot of other shows.
Yeah.
Just loved those the folks behind that company. It was sad to see that company shutter.
Yeah.
But I liked to see that you had pinpointed ZPZ as a place you wanted to work.
100%. I was the annoying person emailing them all throughout college, being like, please, can I work for you? Please, can I work for you? And they're like, you're a sophomore. And I was like, okay, next year. Please, can I work for you? Please, can I work for you? And so my senior year, I finally got an email back and they're like, you know what? If you move to New York, come in, we'll figure something out. And I was like, thank goodness. This is my dream come true because I grew up watching Anthony Bourdain. When people would ask me, what do I want to be when I grow up? I'd say Anthony Bourdain. which is a normal thing to say for like a 10-year-old, or a farmer. So,
Amazing.
Those two.
That's great.
And I got an apartment in New York. I went on my grad trip, and then unfortunately, Anthony Bourdain passed. And so
Wow.
because
Oh
of
my
that,
gosh,
I had to
that's the
shift
timing.
gears. Yeah.
Oh,
it was
man.
that like
June 2018. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah. And so I ended up moving to New York, working for another production company, again in food and travel.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
But
my journey.
So you got into, you wanted to make films, you wanted to make television.
Yeah.
So are you thinking about doing more of that?
Definitely. I think, that's where my interest lays. A lot of my family works in TV, but they're all in scripted TV. And they always like, don't get into TV, like do your own thing. Like don't get into this evil business. But I love the docuseries world and the documentary world. And I think it's a very wholesome world because it's full of people, who are really passionate about what they do, whether it's the environment, sustainability, animals, forests, food, travel. So I love that space.
Claire, on This Is Taste, we have guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire Fast and Furious taste check. Are you ready?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Okay.
The best fruit.
Unripe white nectarine.
Very specific, very great.
I love a crunch. I love a little bit of acidity, a little bit of sweetness. Nectarine over peach. If I have to pick two others, am I allowed to do top three?
You can do top three.
I love a good blueberry.
Yeah.
A really good blueberry is very
special. You got to
special.
visit West Michigan. Incredible blueberries there.
Okay, I must.
Yeah.
I must. Next trip. And a persimmon. But the one where you can bite into it, where it's
not mushy.
Crunchy. Yeah,
that's crunchy. But I love the nectarine that's not ripe.
Yes, an unripe white nectarine.
Unripe is the word.
There you go.
The worst vegetable.
I love vegetables. This was like very difficult for me
gotta
because
pick
I've
one,
listened to your podcast before. A broad bean.
Interesting. Very cool.
They love
much
broad
work.
beans in the UK. The broad beans are everywhere. I don't know if I'd had a broad bean when I lived in the States, but like you always go to a restaurant and it's broad bean dip or like fried broad beans. I don't need them. If they disappeared, I really would not miss them.
That's a first for the show. I love that call. I don't get the broad bean, I guess.
It's like a flat green.
It's like too big and unwieldy.
No.
Yeah.
Texture's weird. I'm not into it.
What is your typical breakfast?
I will usually have some sort of like leftover rice in my fridge, usually basmati. I love just like scrambling an egg through it in the morning. I love that with like soy sauce or ponzu for kake. Or you can make it Mexican inspired, have some salsa verde on there, some avo. But I was in Australia in February and I got really addicted to Vegemite and avocado toast.
Ooh, cool.
So now I make my own sourdough at home and I'll layer Vegemite throughout it before I bake it. So it has these nice slivers of Vegemite. So a good avo toast on that is really yum.
So I'm thinking about this rice through egg. And so you're just doing, what's the ratio about you're thinking?
It's like maybe like a cup of rice for an egg.
Yeah.
Probably.
Mostly rice then. It's like a racier thing.
It's like a 50-50.
50-50, okay.
Yeah, it's a 50-50. And I like adding like chopped herbs to it if I have that. And I really just dress it based on the condiment. So it depends, do I want to go Japanese that morning? Do I want to go Mexican? Do I want to go French? So
very balanced.
Yeah, it depends.
What is the best dessert?
Anything egg white. I love a pavlova. I love a souffle. I love an angel food cake. For some reason, I'm drawn to all like egg white based desserts.
It's texture.
Yeah. I mean, it's either like fluffy or crunchy. So I love that.
It produces just unique textures with a lot of air involved.
And great vessels for condiments.
A restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead?
Uncle Boone's. I miss that banana blossom salad.
Dude, it's great call. Thai Diner is amazing, but it's a different restaurant.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had some good times in that grotto, in that crazy unwieldy dining room.
Absolutely. And also like proving that I could eat that spicy salad. I love doing.
I know, it's true. It really was a mark of being a New Yorker of a certain era to like have that spicy salad at Uncle Boone's.
With tears streaming down your face. You're like,
always.
I can do it.
I always thought Old Mission on the Lower East Side was on like, that place was always the spiciest for me, Mission Chinese. But I think Uncle Boone's was up there too.
Som Tom Dur does a papaya salad. And that papaya salad is really spicy. My roommate here, when I was living in New York, was my best friend from college. She's from Beijing, and she loves spice. And I wasn't great with spice at first. And she trained me when we lived in New York by ordering the Som Tom Dur papaya salad and making me have like a spoonful of it like every night. And that's how now I'm really good with spice because of that salad. And every time I'm in New York, I will always get takeaway from Som Tom Dur, and it's just that papaya salad.
I love that call on Avenue A in the East Village.
Yeah.
I wrote a story about Som Tom Dur for Savor long ago. They have a sardine dish that's amazing. It's like a sardine salad with this cool like chili a sweet chili sauce.
Yum. Okay.
And but I love that call because I think sometimes there doesn't get enough. Like it's obviously an institution at this point.
Yeah, it's when I'm in New York. Usually, we didn't do it this time, but my friend and I, the same friend, we do a salad palooza, we call it, and we order our favorite salads from New York, and so we'll have like 8 to 10 salads on the table and just go ham.
Wait, that's crazy. I love that idea.
It's so fun.
So you get like takeaway from like 8 places and you all bring it over to your apartment?
Yes. So it ranges from like, sweet green to Somtamdur to American Bar to Siddell's, and we just ball out. Instead of having like a fancy restaurant dinner, we just order our favorite salads, and it's so
I think it's really
satisfying.
Smart. Really, really satisfying.
It's really yum.
That's a real, talk about a hospitality hack. I mean, that's fun. I'm actually going to use that's a great idea. I've never heard that. It's
Get
very
together
cool.
with friends, and everyone picks like 1 or 2 salads to order. You don't have to tell each other what you're ordering. And then when they all arrive, you kind of have this amazing spread of what people like.
Yeah. A few more. When you're craving fast food, where do you go?
I didn't grow up really eating fast food, but I am from LA, so I do love my In-N-Out.
Yeah.
But I have a very specific order.
What is it?
Double mustard fried burger. So they can fry the burgers in mustard if you ask for it.
Yeah.
Protein style, because I like the crunch of the lettuce. And then I get either a strawberry shake or a root beer float.
Oh, I love the strawberry shakes there. That's a good call.
Yeah.
Your favorite city outside America? Well, I'm going to back up on that one. I feel like you're not really based anywhere, and I like always ground this question in America. So I'm going to just say your favorite city in the world to visit for food.
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo or Kyoto. Kyoto makes these really special little sushi called geisha sushi, and they're kind of miniature versions of sushi because they're small enough for geishas to put in their mouth without like opening their mouth wide. I went to an amazing tempura restaurant there. I just love any Japanese food, so I would have to say. But I probably know the restaurants better in Tokyo, though. So let me say Tokyo.
Very good choice. Last one, your favorite sandwich?
I think a good jambon beurre.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be executed well, though. It needs to be on a good baguette. There needs to be whole grain Dijon on one side, butter on the other one, good French ham. Good to go.
Probably the most common answer for that question and probably the most correct answer.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed that answer and really enjoyed this conversation,
Thank
Claire.
you so much.
Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me.
And Hazel, welcome back to This Is Taste.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun to be here.
Well, I wanted to have you on specifically to talk about this terrific piece you wrote about the age of tin fish. And it really resonated. Like we had so much traffic in the past week and a half after we published it. Some letters, some social media commentary. How was it received on your end?
Oh, I was kind of surprised by how much feedback I got. I got like a weird email from a stranger just sort of like giving a long account of how he started eating sardines as like a guy in his mid-60s. He like recently got into them. But also someone posted the article on the canned sardines subreddit, which I'm an active member of. And it sparked like a really thoughtful conversation about sort of how hobbies can become commercialized, how different sort of like private equity interests drive these things, and just kind of how capitalism can ruin even the most pure interests and hobbies. A few people also just pointed out sort of like the gender dynamic at play here, and the fact that, like a lot of in the United States, it's become really popular among women in the last few years. And so there's sort of like a question of like, is that why there's the backlash?
Interesting.
Yeah. It was a really, there's some thoughtful commentary on Reddit.
Well, it's interesting with the gender dynamic because many of the voices you profiled in the piece are women, and there definitely is like the optics. Some of the biggest brands are founded by women. I mean, how do you feel about that? The idea of gender dynamics with this. You call it this hobby going platinum, which I thought was a great way to say where Tim Fish is right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think like the part of the interesting thing about the gender dynamic here is just that so many large companies saw tinned fish having a moment, and in their eyes, this was like an opportunity to sell stuff to women. Like you see all these clothing brands coming out with these like bejeweled clutch purses that look like tins of sardines, and like dresses that have sardine motifs all over them. So I do think there's kind of a cynical capitalist thing happening here where just like brands and corporations see something become a little bit popular among women and then they, get dollar signs in their eyes.
Yeah. So Anna, where do we sit with tin fish right now in this era? I mean, you started reporting on it 8 years ago and on Taste, and you have written this book that's terrific. Tell me, how have we evolved?
So much has changed in those last few years. I mean, I remember sort of starting to talk to publishers about the idea of a book about canned fish, and everyone was like, kind of just like, ew, gross. Yeah, and I think it took a few years, like, COVID sort of shaped the way people ate, the way people sought out shelf-stable proteins. And it like transformed people's shopping habits to buying things online and buying things at specialty stores too. So just after several years of big consumer changes, it's really feels like it's reached a point of being mainstream. I just before recording this podcast, I saw a headline, I think published today from Harper's Bazaar declaring it sardine summer.
Oh no.
Which
Oh,
is,
no.
I mean, that's like a phrase that you're probably also seeing all over the place. But it's just funny because it feels to me like the last 3 or 4 summers have been sardine girl summer, sardine summer, tin fish summer, whatever. So it's just funny to see this being like trotted out again and again and again.
But I feel like the net positive for the industry is clearly there, because like with this appreciation, even at the most superficial level, there's still going to be dollars spent on tin fish that weren't there before. Well, let's talk about some of the major players that you profile, and I mean major players meaning the folks that you reached out to who are doing interesting work, and I think Charlotte Langley is one of them from Nice Cans, and you had a great quote from her. Quote: "With popularity comes dilution. You get a lot of trend chasing without respect to the origin, the culture, the process. When something becomes a vibe or an aesthetic, it risks losing its integrity, especially when new players don't hold the same values around sustainability, transparency, and even taste." It feels like a little bit of there's maybe a pushback to these bigger brands that have the marketing dollars to get out there and maybe market the tin fish in a way that's maybe not signaling these important issues. How did you square this?
Yeah, definitely. And I think Meiji Liao had a similar comment in the piece. Mei is like works on Instagram and TikTok and sort of like educates people about tin fish. And yeah, and sort of made the point that like once consumers are just told that like tin fish as a category is delicious and sustainable and whatever, then that's sort of like then consumers maybe are more likely to conflate the industrially fished, sort of like less thoughtfully produced brands that happen to have savvy marketing with those like small independent, multi-generational artisanal brands.
Now, you're an expert in this field, and you've written about it both editorially for magazine articles and a terrific cookbook, which is everywhere. I see it, and it's selling so well. Congratulations!
Thank you.
So can you, as an expert, say and taste? It's the taste of it. Can you taste industrial versus artisanal, handmade? I mean, is there a real difference in the culinary aspects of tin fish?
I think there are little differences that you notice. I mean, some of them are visual when you open the can. If you open a can that's been sort of carefully hand packed in this traditional way, it's like the fish or the mussels or cockles are really intentionally laid in the can in a really beautiful way, versus a lot of like super large scale producers just use machines to stuff the cans. So it's a little bit visual, and then you just taste quality, like quality of the oil being used, quality of the fish itself. So yeah, there are some differences.
Really, really well said. And I totally agree. When you crack a can, you can see when it's been all smushed in there, and it doesn't have like the aesthetic or even the taste. It kind of mushes up a bit when you get a can or a tin that is from a smaller producer. It looks like it's been laid a little bit in a different way. I never thought about it that way until now, and it's really sound. And, this piece is not saying that tin fish is over by any means. And I think maybe the headline tipped to that a slightly bit, but that's just the way that we framed the head. But I think you really get into it clearly in the piece that there are so many interesting brands, even the biggest, doing innovation and creating new product lines, and new fish and new seafood are being presented to this wide audience. It has to be a net positive.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, it's funny. This is such an American thing that we're doing with tin fish right now. In so many other countries and in many parts of Europe, there are these long traditions of eating tin fish, long traditions of respecting these products as sort of like a luxury item, something that artistry goes into, something that really good olive oil goes into. And it's just funny that, once Americans are sort of like learning to embrace and eat this thing, we have to put a label on it. We have to sell merch. We have to make it a trend, like a themed summer of some kind. So that just feels like so American to me in a really, I guess, sort of predictable way.
Absolutely. And the piece was framed as a study of American consumption of tin fish and American capitalist impulses. And you acknowledge in the piece, and it's clear that these traditions are very different in Europe and Asia. And if you go to Spain and Portugal, it's very different. And it's a long-standing tradition there.
Right. Yeah. And I think like part of my thesis in this story is that it's going to become a long-standing tradition in the United States as well. I mean, of course, the United States has had tinned fish companies, has had like a canning industry for many years, but I think we're seeing consumer behaviors shift a little bit, where people are seeking out these really high quality products. And as a result, there are a lot of small independent companies that are either ramping up their production, or they're starting new product lines, or new companies opening too, which is really cool.
Very cool. I wanted to close and talk to you about this terrific piece you published on Best Food Blog. We've talked about your publication previously, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes. You got to subscribe. It's some of the freshest work online in the food and culture world. I'm just love reading what you're doing there. And you had a great idea. You wanted to get a bunch of restaurant critics together on Zoom and talk. Maybe there's some off the record stuff discussed before, but you dug into big topics. What did you learn in speaking with these critics?
Yeah, we had an amazing roundtable on Best Food Blog about restaurant criticism. I talked to Tejal Rao, who is one of the new chief critics at the New York Times, Helen Rosner from the New Yorker, Mackenzie Chung-Fegan from San Francisco Chronicle, and Jay Lee, who does work for Interview Magazine and for Feed Me. And yeah, it was just really fun. I feel like it's like when you get any group of sort of industry people together, where they're excited to compliment each other's work and gossip and share trade secrets a little bit. So that was really fun to witness. Like everyone talking about how they deal with fake credit cards and like how they choose pseudonyms for making reservations at restaurants. I just had never, I had never talked to a group of people about like how that stuff works when you're trying to sort of maintain a low profile and sort of go into a restaurant with a totally unbiased perspective.
Really, really insightful. And all four have been guests on our show. And I just respect the work. And you got just a really great cast there. I mean, did you guys talk about just restaurant trends and what they're seeing in the field, likes and dislikes, any of that stuff?
We didn't put restaurants themselves on blast so much for like trends or for what we're seeing at restaurants. But we talked a little bit about food writing and everyone's pet peeves when it comes to food writing, which was interesting to hear.
Well, I think I wanted to keep this intentionally vague because you got to just go and read the piece. And I'm linking to it again in the show notes. It's from Best Food Blog. Anna Hezel, I love catching up with you. Former co-host of the show. Love your work. Hope you come back.
Thank you for having me.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbard. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.